This is the unusual story of Flying Officer Lloyd Trigg, who is unique in that his recommendation for the award of the Victoria Cross, Britain's highest award for gallantry, came solely from the enemy. Flying Officer Trigg joined the Royal New Zealand Air Force on the 15th of June 1941. He attended pilot training school in Canada, where he was recommended for his commission. He obtained his pilot wings on the 16th of January 1942, where he was commissioned as a pilot officer. He was converted onto the Lockheed Hudson, a versatile aircraft which was used in the bomber, reconnaissance, transport, and maritime patrol roles. He attended flight reconnaissance school for further training. Trigg was then promoted to flying officer and posted to Britain in October 1942, where he joined Coastal Command. He was then moved in November 1942 to British Gambia in West Africa. He joined 200 Squadron RAF in January 1943. In February 1943, he was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for his involvement in 2 attacks on enemy submarines. The squadron was then converted to the maritime version of the B-24 Liberator. Incidentally, of the approximately 18,500 B-24 bombers built, 8,685 were built by the Ford Motor Company, and this type still holds the record for the most produced bomber. And it was on this type of aircraft that Lloyd Trigg will be flying for the first time operationally on the 11th of August 1943, where he would be recommended for his Victoria Cross. He and his crew took off from their base in Yundum in British Gambia to patrol the Atlantic off the West African coast. After 8 hours of patrolling, they spotted a German submarine, the U-468, captained by Oberleutnant Clemens Scharmung, and it was on the surface, and Lloyd Trigg and his plane went into attack. Flying Officer Trigg started his attack run, but his plane came under intense enemy fire from the U-boat's twin 20mm anti-aircraft guns. The Liberator then took several catastrophic hits, causing it to catch fire. Its tail was engulfed in flames, but rather than pull away and ditch the aircraft, which would have given the Germans a no-deflection target and would also have allowed them to escape to do untold damage to Allied shipping, Trigg and his crew carried on their run to the astonishment of the U-boat crew, who could see their cannon shells exploding in the open bomb bay doors. At around 50 feet above the submarine, Lloyd Trigg dropped his depth charges, which were released, exploding on and around the boat. The Liberator then crashed into the sea 300 yards behind the U-boat, killing Trigg and the other 7 members of the crew. The submarine sank approximately 20 minutes later, and only around half of its crew escaped. Many of these were injured or poisoned from chlorine gas. Most of the crew drowned or were eaten by sharks, but 7 of the U-boat's crew, including its captain, were saved. Ironically, though, by getting into the survival dinghy, which had been released from Lloyd Trigg's crushed B-24. On August the 13th, the survivors of the U-boat were then picked up by the British corvette HMS Clarkia after it was spotted by a patrolling RAF Short Sutherland of 204 Squadron. Upon questioning, Oberleutnant Scharmung, the U-468's captain, told of the bravery of the pilot of the plane and recommended that the pilot be awarded the highest honour that Britain could bestow upon him. And it was on this recommendation that Flying Officer Lloyd Trigg was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross, the only one ever to be awarded solely on the testament of an enemy combatant, and the first one awarded to an anti-submarine warfare aircrew. The Victoria Cross was awarded on the 2nd of November 1943, with a citation in the London Gazette. The medal itself was presented to Trigg's widow, Nola, on the 28th of May 1944 by Governor-General of New Zealand, Sir Cyril Newell, at the Trigg family home in the presence of his friends and relatives. Having no known grave, Lloyd Trigg and his crew have had their names engraved on the Malta Memorial, which has the names of another 2,298 Commonwealth aircrew who sadly lost their lives in and around the Mediterranean. Thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed this one. I want to give a shout out to my dad who found this fantastic story. So thank you to him for finding this story and doing the research and then presenting that to me, which could bring this to life. It's very much appreciated. Hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next one.